The morning sky over New York City turned dark purple. Sarah Chen looked up from her coffee cup and watched the massive ships block out the sun. The alien vessels were bigger than any building she had ever seen. They covered the sky like storm clouds, but these clouds had metal hulls and glowing lights. People stopped walking on the streets. Cars came to a halt. Everyone stared up at the impossible sight above them. Sarah pulled out her phone, but the screen showed only static. The radio in the coffee shop made strange buzzing sounds. "What are those things?" asked the barista behind the counter. His voice shook with fear. Sarah did not answer. She could not answer. No one on Earth had ever seen anything like this before. The first alien ship landed in Central Park. It crushed trees and benches as it settled on the ground. The ship was black and smooth, like a giant egg made of metal. Strange symbols glowed on its surface in colors that hurt to look at. Within hours, similar ships landed in every major city around the world. London, Tokyo, Paris, Mumbai, Rio de Janeiro. The aliens had come to Earth and they had come in force. The world's military tried to respond. Fighter jets screamed across the sky, firing missiles at the alien ships. The weapons bounced off the hulls like raindrops. The aliens did not even seem to notice the attacks. On the third day, the aliens finally spoke to Earth. Every television, radio, and computer screen on the planet showed the same image. A tall, thin creature with gray skin and large black eyes stared out at humanity. Its mouth did not move, but its voice filled every human mind. "I am Commander Vex of the Galactic Federation," the alien said. Its voice was cold and flat, like metal scraping against stone. "Your species has been selected for integration into our empire. You will serve as our workers. Resistance is pointless. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons cannot harm us. Submit now, and your transition to slavery will be swift." The message repeated in every language on Earth. The meaning was clear. Humanity was no longer free. The first collection centers opened a week later. Huge metal buildings rose from the ground in major cities. The aliens used some kind of advanced technology to construct them overnight. The buildings had no windows, and only one entrance. Above each door, alien symbols glowed with a sickly green light. "All humans between the ages of 16 and 60 must report for work assignment," announced the alien voice that now spoke from every speaker on Earth. "Failure to comply will result in immediate termination of your city's food and water supply." Sarah stood in line with thousands of other people outside the New York Collection Center. The line stretched for miles. Children cried, parents held their families close. Old people struggled to walk in the heat. The aliens had kept their promise about food and water. Trucks no longer delivered supplies to stores. Taps ran dry. Power plants shut down. The aliens controlled everything now. "Move faster," ordered one of the alien guards. It looked similar to Commander Vex, but wore black armor that covered its thin body. The creature carried a weapon that looked like a twisted piece of metal. Sarah had seen what those weapons could do. They turned people to ash in seconds. Inside the collection center, machines scanned each human. Red lights passed over their bodies. The aliens sorted people into groups based on their scans. Strong young men went to one area, women went to another, children were separated from their parents. "You will work in the mining colonies," an alien told Sarah's group. "Your planet has resources we need. You will extract them. Your workday will be 14 hours. You will receive minimal nutrition to keep you functional. Breeding will be controlled to maintain worker population. Questions are not permitted." Sarah felt her heart sink. This was not just conquest. This was the end of human civilization. The aliens planned to use humans like tools, like machines. They would work until they died, and their children would do the same. But Sarah noticed something the aliens had missed. In their cold, logical minds, they saw humans as weak creatures who would submit without question. They had studied human technology and found it lacking. They had observed human wars and deemed them primitive. But they had not understood what made humans truly dangerous. They had not understood human stubbornness. That night, in the overcrowded dormitory where the aliens housed their new slaves, Sarah whispered to the woman next to her. "My brother is in the military," she said quietly. "Before the communications went down, he told me something. The government has secret facilities, deep underground, places the aliens might not know about." The woman, an older teacher named Maria, nodded slowly. "My husband worked for NASA," she whispered back. "He always said that humans were better at adapting than any other species on Earth. We survived ice ages, plagues, wars. We always find a way." Word spread quietly through the dormitory. Humans had something the aliens did not expect: hope. Over the following days, small acts of resistance began. Workers would accidentally break alien equipment. Guards would find their weapons mysteriously damaged. Computer systems would malfunction at crucial moments. The aliens blamed these incidents on human incompetence, but Sarah knew better. Humans were learning. Every day, people watched the alien guards. They memorized patrol routes. They studied the alien technology. They noted weaknesses in the facilities. Most importantly, they began to communicate in ways the aliens could not detect. The aliens had translator devices that could understand human languages, but they could not read human expressions. A raised eyebrow could mean yes. A slight nod could mean no. A hand gesture could pass along complex information. 3 weeks after the invasion began, Sarah made contact with the outside world. A maintenance worker named Tom had discovered that the alien communication systems used frequencies similar to old radio equipment. With parts scavenged from broken devices, he built a hidden transmitter. "This is New York Collection Center 7, Sarah whispered into the device during a shift change. "Is anyone out there?" The response came through crackling static. "This is Cheyenne Mountain. We read you. Hold position. Help is coming." Sarah's hands trembled as she realized what this meant. The human government still existed. The military was still fighting. Somewhere, somehow, humans were planning to strike back. But the aliens were not stupid. They had conquered dozens of worlds before Earth. They knew that slaves sometimes rebelled. They had prepared for this possibility. The next morning, Commander Vex appeared on every screen again. This time, his black eyes seemed to look directly at each human watching. "We have detected signs of organized resistance among the human population," he announced. "This is disappointing, but not unexpected. Your species shows the same foolish defiance we have seen on other worlds. We will now demonstrate why such resistance is pointless." The screens showed images from around the world. Alien ships hovering over major cities, weapons charging with bright energy. "The city of Denver will serve as an example," Commander Vex continued. "Its population has been deemed expendable. Observe what happens to those who defy the Galactic Federation." Sarah watched in horror as beams of light struck Denver from above. Within minutes, the entire city was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged. Simply gone, as if it had never existed. 2 million people had lived there. Now there was only a smooth crater in the earth. "Resistance is extinction," Commander Vex said. "Submission is survival. Choose wisely." The boo message ended, but Sarah did not feel defeated. She felt something else entirely, something the aliens would soon learn to fear. She felt angry. The destruction of Denver changed everything. The aliens expected fear and submission. Instead, they got something they had never encountered before in their centuries of conquest. They got human rage. Sarah Chen was no longer just a prisoner. She was a soldier in a war the aliens did not even know they were fighting. The underground resistance network grew rapidly after Denver. Humans who had been ready to give up now worked together with deadly purpose. The aliens had made their biggest mistake. They had shown humans that surrender meant death anyway. "If we're going to die, we might as well take some of them with us," whispered Jake Martinez, a former construction worker who had become Sarah's closest ally in the collection center. The aliens had underestimated human creativity. They saw humans as primitive, but humans had spent thousands of years learning to survive with limited resources. Every human knew how to make weapons from everyday objects. Every human understood that sometimes you had to fight impossible odds. The first successful attack happened in the London Collection Center. A group of human workers had discovered that alien technology relied heavily on a specific type of crystal. These crystals powered everything from their weapons to their life support systems. Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins, a former chemistry professor, had been studying the crystals during her work shifts. She noticed that they resonated at a particular frequency. More importantly, she realized that human voices, when combined in a specific way, could create harmonics that disrupted the crystal matrix. "It's like breaking a wine glass with an opera singer's voice," she explained to the other workers. "But instead of breaking glass, we're breaking their entire technological infrastructure." The plan was simple, but required perfect timing. During the morning shift change, when the alien guards were rotating positions, every human in the facility would hum a specific note. The combined voices of 3,000 people would create the exact frequency needed to disrupt the alien systems. The signal to begin was Sarah dropping her work tool. The metallic clang echoed through the facility, and every human began to hum. The effect was immediate and devastating. Alien weapons stopped working. Security doors unlocked. Life support systems failed. The aliens stumbled around, gasping for air, as their environmental suits shut down. The humans did not waste the opportunity. They swarmed the confused aliens, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. For the first time since the invasion began, humans were winning. But the victory was short-lived. Other alien facilities detected the London uprising and activated emergency protocols. Orbital weapons platforms fired on the London Collection Center, destroying it completely. Every human inside died, but their sacrifice sent a message across the globe. Humans could fight back. Humans could win. The alien response was swift and brutal. Commander Vex ordered the immediate execution of 10% of all human workers. The killings were random, designed to break human morale and prevent further uprisings. Instead, the executions had the opposite effect. Humans stopped thinking of themselves as individuals trying to survive. They began thinking of themselves as a species at war. Sarah watched as her friend Maria was selected for execution. The older woman did not beg or cry. Instead, she looked directly at Commander Vex and smiled. "You think you're winning," Maria said quietly. "But you don't understand humans at all. We're not afraid of dying. We're afraid of living without dignity. You've already lost," the alien weapon fired, and Maria turned to ash. But her words spread through the human population like wildfire. Meanwhile, in hidden bunkers around the world, human scientists and military leaders were working on something the aliens could never have imagined. They were not just planning to resist. They were planning to win. General Patricia Williams commanded the last free human military force from a facility buried 3 miles underground in the Rocky Mountains. Her bunker contained the greatest minds humanity had left: scientists, engineers, strategists, and soldiers who had avoided capture during the initial invasion. "The aliens made one critical error," General Williams explained to her staff. "They assumed that because our technology was primitive, our minds were primitive too. They're about to learn how wrong they are." The humans had been studying captured alien technology for months. Every piece of equipment that failed, every weapon that malfunctioned, every communication device that broke down was secretly collected and analyzed. Dr. Robert Kim, formerly of MIT, had made the most important discovery. Alien technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also incredibly specialized. Each device was designed for one specific purpose and could not adapt to unexpected situations. "It's like they're using surgical scalpels for everything," Dr. Kim explained. "Perfect for cutting, useless for hammering nails. Human technology is more like a multi-tool, not as elegant but much more flexible. This inflexibility was the key to humanity's counterattack." The aliens had never fought an enemy that could adapt their own technology against them. They had never faced opponents who could turn simple materials into deadly weapons. Most importantly, they had never encountered a species that got stronger under pressure. The plan that emerged from the bunker was audacious beyond belief. Humans would not try to match alien technology. Instead, they would use the aliens' technological superiority against them. Every alien device depended on quantum-level processors that worked in perfect harmony. These processors were incredibly powerful, but also incredibly fragile. A small disruption in the quantum field could cascade through their entire network. Humans had something that could create such disruptions: nuclear weapons, but not in the way the aliens expected. "They've prepared for nuclear attacks," General Williams said. "Their shields can deflect our biggest warheads, but they haven't prepared for nuclear weapons used as electromagnetic pulse generators. The plan required sacrifices that would have been unthinkable before the invasion. Nuclear weapons would be detonated in the upper atmosphere above every major alien installation. The electromagnetic pulses would disable alien technology across entire continents, but the pulses would also destroy human electronics. Hospitals would lose power. Communication systems would fail. Millions of humans would die in the chaos that followed. "We're choosing between slavery and freedom," General Williams told the world leaders who remained in hidden bunkers. "Between certain death and possible survival, I know what I choose." The decision was unanimous. As the resistance prepared for the final assault, something unexpected happened in the alien command structure. Commander Vex received a message from the Galactic Federation home world. The message was not what he expected. "Commander." "Vex," said the voice of High Chancellor Zarn, the supreme leader of the alien empire. "We have been monitoring your conquest of the human world. Your progress has been disappointing." Vex's blood ran cold. Disappointing was not a word used lightly in the Federation. Species that disappointed the Federation were usually erased from existence. The humans are proving more troublesome than anticipated, Vex replied carefully. But they are still primitive. Their resistance is limited to small-scale sabotage. Small-scale sabotage that has destroyed 6 collection centers and killed over 300 of our soldiers, Chancellor Zarn pointed out. No other species has achieved such success against Federation forces, ever. Vex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. High Chancellor, I assure you that the situation is under control. The humans will be broken soon. You have 1 cycle to complete the subjugation, Chancellor Zarn said. If you fail, we will initiate planetary sterilization protocols. The human world will be cleansed, and you will be demoted to overseer of asteroid mining operations. The communication ended, leaving Vex alone with his growing fear. For the first time since the invasion began, he wondered if the Federation had made a mistake. Perhaps humans were not the primitive creatures they appeared to be. Perhaps humans were something far more dangerous. Sarah Chen, working in the mining facility outside what used to be Chicago, had no idea that the fate of humanity would soon be decided. She only knew that tomorrow, humans around the world would either win their freedom or die trying. Either outcome was better than slavery. The revolution was about to begin. The day of the Great Uprising began like any other day of slavery. Sarah Chen woke in her metal bunk at 5 in the morning. The alien wake-up signal buzzed through the dormitory, harsh and mechanical. Around her, 300 other humans stirred to life, preparing for another 14-hour shift in the mining tunnels. But today was different. Today, hidden radios throughout the facility crackled with a single word repeated in dozens of languages. Phoenix, the code word that meant freedom or death. Sarah felt her heart race as she heard the message. After months of planning and preparation, the moment had finally arrived. Every human on Earth would rise at exactly the same time. They would strike with everything they had learned about their captors. The aliens had made their species-ending mistake by thinking humans were like every other conquered race. They were about to discover what made humanity unique in the galaxy. At mining facility Alpha 7, Sarah's group prepared for their morning shift. The human workers moved slowly, as they always did. The alien guards barely paid attention, as they always did. To them, humans were just another day's work. Boring, predictable, easily controlled. They did not notice that the humans were wearing their tool belts differently today. They did not see the small modifications made to mining equipment over the past weeks. Most importantly, they did not realize that every human in the facility had memorized the exact location of every alien guard, every security system, every critical power junction. The aliens had taught humans their routines. Now humans would use that knowledge to destroy them. 8:15 in the morning. Sarah was working deep in Tunnel 7 when the first electromagnetic pulse detonated high above North America. The nuclear weapon exploded not on the ground, but in space, creating a wave of electromagnetic energy that swept across the continent like invisible lightning. Every alien device within 1,000 miles died instantly. Security systems shut down. Weapons stopped working. Communication networks failed. Life support systems in alien armor began to malfunction. The technologically superior invaders were suddenly blind, deaf, and helpless. The humans struck immediately. Sarah had been assigned to Tunnel 7 because it ran directly under the main alien command center. For weeks, She and her team had been placing small charges at key support points. Not enough to be noticed during security scans, but enough to bring down the entire structure. Now, Sarah whispered into her hidden radio. The charges exploded, in sequence. The tunnel collapsed upward, taking the command center with it. Commander Taz, the alien in charge of the facility, was crushed under tons of rock and metal. His last thought was confusion. How had the primitive humans done this? All. Around the world, similar scenes played out. In Tokyo, human workers used modified mining lasers to cut through alien armor. In London, former engineers redirected power from the facility's generators, overloading alien equipment. In Sydney, a team of doctors used their knowledge of alien anatomy to target weak points in their captors' bodies. The aliens had spent months studying human capabilities and dismissed them as inadequate, but they had never studied human psychology. They did not understand that humans fight hardest when they have nothing left to lose. The electromagnetic pulse had another effect the aliens had not anticipated. It knocked out their orbital communication systems. For the first time since the invasion began, they could not call for immediate reinforcement from their ships in space. General Williams watched the global uprising from her bunker command center. Reports flooded in from around the world. Facility after facility fell to human attacks, but she knew this was only the beginning. Phase 1 is complete, she announced to her staff. All ground facilities are either destroyed or under human control. But we've only eliminated their forward forces. The real enemy is still up there. Above Earth's atmosphere, the massive alien fleet remained untouched. Hundreds of ships, each capable of destroying entire cities. The electromagnetic pulses could not reach them at that distance. Soon they would realize what had happened on the surface and respond with overwhelming force. Phase 2 begins now, General Williams ordered. Hidden launch sites around the world came to life, not nuclear missile silos, which the aliens had destroyed early in the invasion. These were something else entirely, something the aliens had never seen before. Humans had built rockets from scrap metal and spare parts. Simple, crude, primitive, by alien standards. But they worked. More importantly, they carried a payload the aliens could not defend against. Each rocket contained a small nuclear device designed not to explode, but to emit a continuous electromagnetic pulse. These devices would be piloted directly into the alien ships by human volunteers. The rockets were too simple to be stopped by alien defenses. They had no advanced electronics to jam, no sophisticated guidance systems to disrupt. They were barely controlled metal tubes propelled by chemical reactions. The aliens' advanced weapons could not effectively target such primitive technology. Sarah had volunteered for this mission before the uprising began. She sat in the cramped cockpit of rocket designation Phoenix 7, waiting for launch authorization. Around her, the life support system was nothing more than an oxygen tank and a small heater. She would have perhaps 10 minutes of air once she reached space. It would be enough. All Phoenix pilots, this is command, came General Williams's voice over the radio. You are humanity's last hope. Your sacrifice will be remembered for all time. Launch when ready. Sarah pressed the ignition button. Chemical rockets fired beneath her, pushing her primitive spacecraft up through Earth's atmosphere. Around the globe, 100 similar rockets launched simultaneously. The alien fleet detected the incoming objects, but could not understand what they were seeing. The rockets were too primitive to be weapons, too crude to be a threat. They seemed like desperate gestures from a dying species. Admiral Crix, commander of the orbital fleet, watched the approaching rockets with confusion. "What are the humans attempting?" he asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, Admiral. The objects appear to be chemically propelled vehicles, primitive beyond measure. They pose no threat to our hulls. Then why launch them at all?" Admiral Crix wondered aloud. He was about to find out. Sarah's rocket reached the nearest alien ship, a massive dreadnought that blocked out half the sky. She had no sophisticated targeting system, no advanced computers. She aimed her craft using her eyes and her hands, just like humans had been doing for thousands of years. The rocket struck the alien ship's hull and penetrated deep into its interior before exploding. But this explosion was different from any weapon the aliens had encountered. It did not create heat or shrapnel. Instead, it created an electromagnetic shock wave that spread through the ship's quantum processors like a virus. Every system on the dreadnought failed at once. Life support, engines, weapons, navigation. The ship became a dead hulk floating in space. Worse, the pulse spread to nearby vessels through their communication links, disabling them as well. One by one, humanity's volunteers crashed their primitive rockets into the alien fleet. Each impact killed one human and disabled multiple alien ships. It was the most unequal trade in military history, and humanity was winning. Admiral Crix watched his fleet die around him. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed by flying metal cans piloted by suicidal primitives. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was terrifying. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "We need to contact the home fleet immediately." But when he tried to open communication channels, he discovered that the electromagnetic pulses had damaged his long-range transmitters. The fleet was cut off from the Federation, stranded in orbit around a world that had just declared war on the galaxy. On Earth's surface, the remaining aliens found themselves in an impossible situation. Their technology was dead. Their orbital support was gone. They were surrounded by billions of angry humans who had learned to fight using captured alien weapons. The surrender came within hours. Commander Vex, one of the few surviving alien officers, found himself standing in what used to be a human collection center. But now the roles were reversed. He was the prisoner facing a human interrogator. "I want to speak to your leader," Vex demanded, though his voice shook with fear. The human, a former teacher named Maria Santos, smiled coldly. "You are speaking to a leader. Every human is a leader now. We don't have the luxury of rigid hierarchies like your Federation." "This is impossible," Vex said. "We have conquered hundreds of worlds. No species has ever successfully resisted the Federation. Your technology is primitive. Your society is chaotic. You should have been easy to defeat." Maria leaned forward. "You made the same mistake that every bully makes. You thought that being strong meant being right. You thought that having better weapons meant being better people, but you never understood what makes humans dangerous." "What?" Vex asked, though he dreaded the answer. "We adapt," Maria said simply. "You gave us your technology to study. You showed us your weaknesses. You taught us your language and your culture. Most importantly, you gave us a reason to fight. Everything we needed to defeat you, you provided yourselves." Vex stared at her in growing horror. "The Federation will send more ships, larger fleets. They will destroy your world entirely, rather than allow this rebellion to continue." Maria's smile grew wider. "Let them come. We'll be ready. And Commander Vex? By the time they arrive, we won't just be defending Earth. We'll be coming for them." The alien commander felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. For the first time in Federation history, a conquered species had not just resisted. They had won. And now they were planning to take the war to their former captors. Above Earth, the crippled alien fleet began to retreat toward deep space. They carried with them a message that would shake the galaxy to its core. Humanity was no longer prey. They had become predators, and they were angry. 6 months after the liberation of Earth, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of humanity's first starship. It was not beautiful by alien standards. The ship looked like what it was: a fusion of human engineering and captured alien technology, built in the ruins of New York City by people who had learned to turn scrap metal into weapons of war. But it flew. More importantly, it was armed. "Destination coordinates locked in, Captain," reported Jake Martinez from the navigation station. The former construction worker had learned to pilot alien technology with the same skill he once used to operate: heavy machinery. Sarah still could not believe she was a captain. 6 months ago, she had been a prisoner in an alien work camp. Now she commanded one of 12 human warships preparing to take the fight beyond Earth's solar system. The plan was audacious even by human standards. Instead of waiting for the Galactic Federation to send another invasion fleet, humanity would strike first. They would hit Federation targets throughout the galaxy before the aliens could organize a proper response. "All ships report ready for jump," came the voice of Admiral Williams over the communication system. The former general had been promoted to oversee humanity's first interstellar military campaign. Sarah looked around her bridge crew. Every person there had been a slave, a prisoner, a victim of alien cruelty. Now they were soldiers in a war that would determine the fate of both species. "Take us to Jump Point Alpha," Sarah ordered. The ship's engines engaged, pushing them toward the edge of the solar system where space was stable enough for faster-than-light travel. Behind them, Earth looked small and blue and precious. Many of the crew would never see it again. They knew this. They had volunteered anyway. The first target was a Federation supply depot in the Centauri system. According to intelligence gathered from captured aliens, the depot supplied dozens of worlds with weapons and equipment. Its destruction would cripple Federation operations across an entire sector of the galaxy. But the depot was heavily defended. Automated defense platforms surrounded it like a metal constellation. Any ship approaching the facility would be detected and destroyed long before it could fire a shot, any conventional ship anyway. "Jump in 3, 2, 1, mark," called out the navigation officer. Reality twisted around them as the ship entered hyperspace. Sarah felt her stomach lurch as physics bent in ways human brains were not designed to understand. The aliens had made this technology seem smooth and effortless. In human hands, it was rough and violent and barely controlled. It worked, though. That was all that mattered. When they emerged from hyperspace, the Federation depot hung before them like a metal city in space. It was larger than anything humans had ever built, bristling with weapons and sensors. Alien ships moved around it like insects around a hive. "Incoming transmission," reported the communications officer. "They're demanding our identification." "Put me on general broadcast," Sarah ordered. She stood up, facing the main viewer that showed the alien facility. When she spoke, her words would be heard by every Federation soldier in the system. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Liberation Fleet. You enslaved our world. You murdered our people. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. This is your only warning. Surrender now or face the consequences." The response came immediately. Every weapon on the depot and its escort ships opened fire at once. space filled with energy beams and missiles, all aimed at the small human fleet. Sarah smiled grimly. "Did you really think we would just fly straight at you?" She asked the empty space where the alien transmission had originated. The weapons fire passed harmlessly through the human ships, because the human ships were not actually there. 3 days earlier, human engineers had made a breakthrough while studying captured alien technology. They discovered that Federation sensors worked by detecting quantum signatures of matter. Every ship, every weapon, every living being had a unique quantum fingerprint. Humans had learned to fake those fingerprints. The 12 ships the aliens were shooting at were elaborate illusions created by modified alien holographic systems. The real human fleet was approaching from a completely different direction, hidden behind sensor shadows cast by the system's outer planets. "Real fleet! This is Phantom Leader," Sarah broadcast on a frequency the aliens could not detect. "Enemy is fully engaged with decoy targets. Begin actual attack run." The true human ships emerged from behind the gas giant, moving fast and low, on chemical thrusters that produced almost no energy signature. They had turned off all alien technology that might betray their presence. They were flying dark and dangerous, the way humans had learned to fight. By the time the Federation forces realized their mistake, human ships were already inside their defensive perimeter. Sarah's ship, the New York Vengeance, fired its main weapon at point-blank range into the depot's central power core. The weapon was not alien technology. It was a scaled-up version of the mining charges that had started the revolution on Earth. Simple, crude, and devastatingly effective. The depot's shields, designed to stop sophisticated energy weapons, could not adapt to high explosive charges, delivered at close range. The entire facility shuddered as secondary explosions rippled through its structure, but Sarah knew the real battle was just beginning. Federation reinforcements would arrive soon. The human fleet had perhaps 30 minutes to complete their mission and escape before being overwhelmed. "All ships, execute Plan Chaos," Sarah ordered. Plan Chaos was humanity's answer to superior alien numbers and technology. Instead of fighting like the Federation expected, humans would fight like humans. Unpredictably, illogically, and with complete disregard for their own safety. The human ships scattered in all directions, each following a different random course through the alien formations. They ignored military formations and tactical doctrine. They acted like 12 individual fighters instead of one coordinated fleet. The aliens tried to adapt, but their command structure was not designed for this kind of warfare. They expected enemies to follow logical patterns, to mass their forces for maximum effectiveness, to retreat when outnumbered. Humans did none of these things. Instead, they did what humans had always done when facing impossible odds. They got creative. The ship designated Earth's Fury flew directly into the hangar bay of an alien cruiser and detonated its entire ammunition supply. The explosion destroyed both ships, but it also crippled 2 other vessels caught in the blast. The Boston Tea Party used its mining lasers to cut through the support cables of an orbital defense platform, sending it tumbling into the depot's main structure. The Remember Denver targeted the alien command ship's bridge with a focused electromagnetic pulse, leaving the entire enemy fleet without central coordination. Within 20 minutes, the most heavily defended Federation facility in the sector was nothing but floating debris. The human fleet had lost 4 ships and over 200 crew members, but they had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had defeated a Federation stronghold with inferior technology and smaller numbers. As the surviving human, ships prepared to jump back to hyperspace, They received an unexpected transmission. It came from a Federation vessel that had arrived too late to participate in the battle. Human ships, this is Admiral Zek of the Federation Third Fleet. I must speak with your commander immediately. Sarah was tempted to ignore the transmission and jump away. But something in the alien's voice made her pause. It did not sound like the cold arrogance she had grown accustomed to from Federation officers. It sounded like fear. This is Captain. Chen, you have 30 seconds before we leave. Captain, please, I am not here to fight. I bring an urgent message from the Galactic Council. They wish to negotiate a ceasefire. Sarah felt her blood freeze. Negotiate? After what you did to Earth? After Denver? After the millions you murdered? Captain, you must understand. What you have accomplished here today has sent shockwaves through the entire Federation. No conquered species has ever successfully counterattacked our territory. The Council is concerned. Good, Sarah replied coldly. They should be concerned. We're just getting started. That is precisely what they fear, Admiral Zek said. Your species does not fight like other races. You do not follow predictable patterns. You adapt and improvise in ways our tactical computers cannot model. If this war continues, it could destabilize the entire galactic order. Sarah almost laughed. 6 months ago, she had been making coffee in New York City. Now, an alien admiral was telling her that humanity was a threat to galactic civilization. Here are our terms for negotiation, she said. The Federation will withdraw from all human space immediately. You will provide reparations for the damage done to Earth. You will release any human prisoners you still hold. And you will publicly acknowledge that the human species is free and independent. Those terms are generous, Admiral Zek said carefully. The Council was prepared to offer much less. Admiral, let me explain something about humans that your species never understood. We do not negotiate from positions of weakness. We have 12 ships today. Next month we will have 50. Next year we will have 500. Every day you delay, our terms get worse. You cannot possibly believe you can defeat the entire Federation with such small numbers. Sarah's smile was visible in her voice. Admiral, we defeated your entire invasion force with rocks and mining equipment. We destroyed your most secure facility with ships built in the ruins of our cities. Do you really want to find out what we can do when we have time to prepare? There was a long pause before Admiral Zek responded. I will relay your terms to the Council, but Captain, you should know that not all Federation leaders are as diplomatic as those currently in power. If negotiations fail, the next force sent to your system will not come to conquer. It will come to exterminate. Let them come, Sarah said. We will be ready. End transmission. The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of what had once been an impregnable Federation stronghold. But as they traveled back toward Earth, Sarah could not shake the feeling that the real war was just beginning. Humanity had won its first battle beyond the solar system, but the Galactic Federation controlled thousands of worlds and millions of ships. The question was not whether humans could fight. They had proven that beyond doubt. The question was whether they could survive what was coming next. 3 years had passed since humanity's first victory at the Centauri Depot. The galaxy was no longer the same place. The Galactic Federation, which had ruled unchallenged for thousands of years, was crumbling from within. Sarah Chen stood in the command center of New Terra Station, humanity's first permanent base outside the solar system. Through the massive windows, She could see dozens of human warships preparing for what many believed would be the final battle of the Human Federation War. But these were not the crude, improvised vessels that had fought at Centauri. 3 years of captured alien technology and human innovation had created something new. The ships were sleek and deadly, combining the best of both civilizations. More importantly, they were crewed by humans who had learned that they were not inferior to any species in the galaxy. "Status report," Sarah requested from her staff. She was no longer just a captain. The other human colonies had elected her as Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Forces. It was a title she had never wanted, but could not refuse. "Admiral Martinez reports the Third Fleet is ready for deployment," announced her aide, a young woman who had been born after the liberation of Earth. To her generation, freedom was not a gift, but a birthright that humans had won through courage and sacrifice. "What about our allies?" Sarah asked. That word would have been impossible to imagine 3 years ago. Allies, other species fighting alongside humanity against the Federation. The first to join had been the Zephyrians, a race of peaceful traders who had been systematically exploited by Federation economic policies. When human raiders began attacking Federation supply lines, the Zephyrians offered intelligence and safe harbor in exchange for protection from Federation retaliation. Next came the Korthak Empire, a warrior species that the Federation had conquered decades earlier. The Korthak had never stopped fighting, but they had been gradually worn down by superior Federation technology. Human weapons and tactics gave them new hope and new strength. Soon, dozens of oppressed species were reaching out to humanity, not for conquest or domination, but for something the galaxy had not seen in centuries. "Liberation. The Allied fleets are assembling at Rally Point 7, reported the communications officer. "The Zephyrians have contributed 47 ships. The Korthak have sent their entire remaining fleet. Even the Ethereals have provided support vessels." Sarah nodded, but her expression remained grim. The Allied fleet was impressive, but their enemy was the combined might of the Federation's core worlds. Over 3,000 ships, including massive dreadnoughts that could destroy planets. "And what about the message from the Federation Council?" she asked. That morning, humanity had received an unprecedented communication from the highest levels of the Galactic Federation. High Chancellor Zarn himself had offered terms for ending the war. The terms were better than anything the Federation had ever offered a rebellious species: complete autonomy for human space, recognition of humanity as a sovereign power, even reparations for the damage done to Earth during the invasion. All humanity had to do was stop encouraging other species to rebel. Sarah had rejected the offer immediately. "Commander," said Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins, who had become humanity's leading expert on alien psychology, "I have to ask again, are you certain we should continue this war? The Federation's offer is generous. We could have peace." "Peace for us," Sarah replied. "What about the Zephyrians, the Korthak, the hundreds of other species still under Federation control? Do we abandon them to save ourselves?" Dr. Hawkins nodded slowly. "I thought you would say that. It is very human of you." "What do you mean?" "Other species fight for territory, resources, survival. Only humans fight for principles. It is what makes you so dangerous to established order." On the main viewer, an image appeared of the Federation's last great stronghold, Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Federation, home to over 10 billion Federation citizens and the most heavily defended planet in known space. It was also the target of humanity's final offensive. "All fleet commanders, this is Supreme Commander Chen," Sarah broadcast to the assembled armada. "Today we do not fight for conquest. We do not fight for revenge. We fight for the right of every thinking being in this galaxy to be free." The response came from 1,000 ships in dozens of languages. But the message was the same in all of them. Today, tyranny would end. The jump to Nexus Prime took 12 hours through the hyperspace routes that humanity had learned to navigate better than their creators. When the Allied fleet emerged at the edge of the system, they found exactly what they expected. The Federation had assembled every ship they could spare. The space around Nexus Prime was filled with vessels representing the military might of 1,000 worlds. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. "Incoming transmission from the Federation flagship," reported the communications officer. Sarah nodded. "Put it through." The face that appeared on the screen was familiar. High Chancellor Zarn, Supreme Ruler of the Galactic Federation. He looked older than when Sarah had seen him in previous transmissions. The war had aged him. "Supreme Commander Chen," he said formally, "I address you one final time in the hope that sanity will prevail. You are outnumbered 10-1. Your ships, while formidable, cannot possibly succeed against our assembled might. I offer you one last chance to withdraw with honor." "Chancellor Zarn," Sarah replied calmly, 3 years ago, your forces invaded my world. You enslaved my people. You murdered millions of innocent civilians. Did you really think we would forget? Did you imagine we would forgive?" "What you have accomplished is remarkable," Zarn admitted. "No species has ever challenged Federation authority as effectively as humanity. But this ends today. If you attack Nexus Prime, I will have no choice but to order the complete extermination of your homeworld." Sarah felt ice in her veins. The threat was real. Federation planet-killer weapons could turn Earth into asteroid dust within minutes. But then she remembered something. A lesson humanity had learned during the darkest days of their enslavement. "Chancellor, you still do not understand what you are facing. Humanity is not just one world anymore. We are every world where beings dream of freedom. You cannot kill an idea with planet killers." "Perhaps not," Zarn said coldly. "But I can kill you." The transmission ended, and the Federation fleet moved into attack formation. "All ships execute Plan Prometheus," Sarah ordered. Plan Prometheus was humanity's most audacious strategy yet. Instead of engaging the Federation fleet in conventional battle, the Allied forces would split into hundreds of small groups and attack targets throughout the Nexus system simultaneously. Supply depots, communication relays, orbital platforms, civilian infrastructure. Everything that kept the Federation's capital functioning would be destroyed or captured within hours. But the most important target was not military. Deep beneath the surface of Nexus Prime was the Central Archive, the vast computer system that controlled the Federation's bureaucracy. Every law, every regulation, every administrative detail that kept 1,000 worlds under Federation control was stored there. A small team of human infiltrators had been working for months to plant a virus in that system. Not a weapon designed to destroy, but something much more dangerous to authoritarian rule. Information. As the battle raged in space above, the virus activated in the Central Archive. Every classified document, every secret communication, every hidden order was simultaneously broadcast to every world in Federation space. Species across the galaxy learned the truth about Federation rule. They discovered the exploitation, the oppression, the countless atrocities committed in the name of galactic order. Most importantly, they learned that resistance was possible. Planet after planet began to rebel. "Chancellor, this is Commander Chen," Sarah broadcast on all frequencies as her ship dodged through the chaos of battle. "Your fleet may defeat us today. You may even destroy Earth. But you have already lost the war." "What are you talking about?" Zarn demanded. "Look at your communication board, Chancellor. How many worlds are reporting rebellions? How many of your governors are requesting military assistance? How many of your own people are questioning whether the Federation deserves to survive?" On the bridge of the Federation flagship, alarms were sounding as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The virus had done more than reveal secrets. It had ignited a galactic revolution. "This changes nothing," Zarn said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I still have the largest fleet in the galaxy." "For now," Sarah agreed. "But every day you spend fighting us, more worlds slip from your control. Every ship you lose here cannot be replaced. Every soldier who dies today cannot fight the rebellions spreading across your territory. How long do you think your empire can survive when half the galaxy is in open revolt?" The answer came not from Zarn, but from his own officers. One by one, Federation ships began to withdraw from the battle, not to retreat, but to return to their home systems where their own people were rising up against Federation rule. Within hours, the massive Federation fleet had shrunk to a fraction of its original size. Those ships that remained were commanded by officers whose loyalty to the Federation outweighed their concern for their homeworlds. The battle continued for 3 more days, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Superior numbers meant nothing when those numbers were deserting to fight other battles. On the 4th day, High Chancellor Zarn himself requested a ceasefire. "What are your terms?" he asked Sarah during their final communication. "Dissolution of the Galactic Federation," Sarah replied without hesitation. "Complete independence for all member worlds, and full amnesty for any species that chooses to establish its own government. You are asking me to destroy everything my people have built over thousands of years. Your people built an empire on the suffering of others," Sarah said firmly. "That empire was always going to fall eventually. The only question was whether it would collapse peacefully or in violence. We are giving you the chance to choose peace." Zarn was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke again. "If I agree to these terms, what guarantee do I have that humanity will not simply replace the Federation as the galaxy's dominant power?" Sarah smiled, and for the first time in their conversation, it was a genuinely warm expression. "Chancellor, you still do not understand humans at all. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be free, and we want every other species to have that same freedom. That is unprecedented in galactic history. Then maybe it is time for something unprecedented." The formal surrender was signed aboard New Terra Station 2 weeks later. Representatives from hundreds of worlds attended the ceremony, not as subjects of a galactic empire, but as free beings choosing their own destinies. Sarah Chen, the former, coffee shop customer who had become humanity's greatest military leader, gave a short speech to the assembled delegates. "Today marks the end of the Galactic Federation," she said. "But it also marks the beginning of something better. A galaxy where every species can determine its own fate, where cooperation replaces coercion, where diversity is celebrated instead of suppressed." She paused, looking out at the crowd of beings from dozens of different worlds. "Humanity did not fight this war to become your new masters. We fought so that no one would ever be anyone's master again. The galaxy belongs to all of us now. What we build with our freedom is up to each of us to decide. As the ceremony ended, and the delegates returned to their ships, Sarah stood alone on the observation deck of the station. Through the transparent metal, she could see the stars. Countless suns, countless worlds, countless possibilities. 3 years ago, those stars had seemed impossibly distant. Now they represented the future that humanity and its allies had won through courage, sacrifice, and an unwillingness to accept that might made right. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Sarah thought, was exactly as it should be. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun. Humanity had kept its promise. They had not only survived their enslavement, but had liberated an entire galaxy. And now, as the former Federation worlds began to establish their own governments and forge new alliances, one thing was certain. Never again would any species have to beg for mercy from their oppressors. Because now they knew that even the mightiest empire could fall when people refused to remain slaves.